Hey guys, it's Pascale with Art of Adventure. One of the things that I love about the state of Florida is all the freshwater springs. We have more than 700 springs in the state of Florida, and there's something for everyone. Today I happen to be at Blue Grotto for a dive adventure. That's a story for another day. But what I want to talk about today is my top 5 family-friendly springs in the state of Florida. This was really hard, so I tried to gear this video towards the smaller kids. Number 5, Alexander Springs. Alexander Springs sits in the Ocala National Forest, just about an hour and 15 minutes north of Orlando. Okay, parents, I know it's one of the pricier springs, up to $10 a person, but I kept it on this list because of the spring itself. It has a huge swimming area, about the size of a football field. Most of it is shallow and sandy. Parents, you can either sit along the banks or go for a dip yourself. The spring vent is deeper, about 25 feet. Even with the bottom well out of reach, it always amazes me how many people are swimming right above the spring head. Snorkelers and swimmers test out their deep diving abilities. I was lucky enough to catch a mermaid putting on a bit of a show. You can swim, snorkel, and scuba dive here year-round. Kayaks and canoes are also popular. You can rent them here, but you may want to call ahead to see if they're available. Okay, some pro tips for parents. It's first come, first served. Reservations are only for campers. The spring opens at 8 a.m. I suggest you arrive by then. Expect to wait in your car for 30 minutes or more. The line will be long, especially during the summer months, but don't let it deter you. Parking is easy, and there's a nice big paved parking lot. Pack a picnic. There's nowhere to buy food on the property itself. If you're there early enough, you may be able to snag a grill and picnic table. Bring your own floats, masks, and snorkels, and enjoy the beautiful 72-degree crystal clear spring at Alexander. Okay, number 4, Salt Springs. I visited Salt in January, and it was perfect. There were only a few other people in the water. 72-degree water temps feel pretty good in the winter months, too. This spring is also in the Ocala National Forest, and it has a couple of unique qualities. First, it is actually a tiny bit salty. I'm not talking ocean salty, but the natural spring water rises through ancient salt deposits, bringing some of those minerals with it to the surface. Second, the exposed limestone is just beautiful. Definitely bring your mask and snorkel. Keep your eyes open for the blue crabs that like to hang out near the rocks. I put this one on the list of family-friendly springs because it's relatively shallow throughout. Most of the spring area is between 2 to 5 feet deep. There's also a nice walkway that frames the spring head and swimming area. Salt Springs costs $6.50 per person and has all the usual amenities. Here are a couple tips for Salt. If you have your own kayak or canoe, you can save a few bucks and put in at the Salt Springs Marina around the corner. You will have to pay $10 for parking, but if you have more than one person with you, you can save a few dollars and set out on a short paddle to the spring instead. There is a tiny general store at Salt Springs, but you should plan to pack a picnic and bring your own floats. Oh, and the campgrounds and the recreational area are in 2 different places, so make sure you put Salt Springs recreational area in your GPS to get to the right place. Number 3, Wekiva Springs. This is the first spring on my list that's a Florida State Park. One of the great things about Florida State Parks is the price. $6 per car. That's a deal. Wekiva's location is also a perk, only 30-minute drive from Orlando's main attractions. It sits off the Wekiva River, which is a beautiful river to kayak, especially if you want to see some wildlife. Turtles for days. The spring itself is surrounded with a well-manicured lawn, perfect for picnics. The swimming area, though, that's my favorite part. It's just more than a half acre in size, and its average depth is about 4 feet. Like most springs, there are no lifeguards, but the boardwalk and the depth make it pretty easy to keep an eye on the little ones. The spring vent is beautiful. It opens like a crack in the earth. It's much deeper here, and it's fun to test your freediving abilities. There's also another small cavern entrance on one side of the spring. I was only brave enough to poke my head into it. Back on land, you have all the amenities typical of a Florida state park. Here are a few pro tips for Wekiva. I'm a huge fan of the Florida State Park Pass. You can get an annual family pass for $120. If you're like me, it will pay for itself in just a few months. Plus, it may spark you to stop at a few state parks you never considered before. Parking is easy, but keep an eye on the signs. Make sure you park as close as you can to the attraction you want. For instance, you may want to park closer to the spring than the kayak launch. There's a restaurant at Wekiva, but don't expect more than grilled hot dogs and burgers. Pack your own float, and don't forget to bring your mask and snorkel. Number 2, here we go. Itchituckney Springs. Growing up in Northeast Florida, you go to Itchituckney. You just do. It's easy to get to. It's in Columbia County, only about 30 minutes southwest of Lake City. Some of my best memories are rafting down Itchituckney with my family as a kid. It's a Florida state park, so the entry fee is just $6, but you will have to pay more to rent tubes or to use the tram for the tube runs. You can choose the length of the run that suits you and your family best. The float from the midpoint launch is about an hour and 15 minutes. The Dampier run puts you on the water about 45 minutes. Either way, you can get your wristbands for the tram at the ticket window at the general store. I definitely suggest paying to use the tram. You want to spend your time enjoying the water, not hiking everywhere, carrying your tubes or rafts. I know they look funny, but wear the water shoes of your choice. Even if the tram drops you off, expect to walk dirt trails that have some rocks and roots to navigate. The tubes with some sort of bottom may be better for parents who will be carrying extra items. Have some way to secure your items to your raft. Once you get in the water, just sit and relax. Check the scenery and enjoy. I always like to bring a mask and snorkel too. On this day, the water was a tiny bit cloudy because of recent storms. It's usually very clear. There are plenty of fish to see. And you can always count on the turtles to line the banks. Once you exit at the south point, it's only a 2-minute hike up a paved path back to the tram line. A lot of people go to Itchituckney to tube the natural lazy river, but please don't forget to check out the main spring by the north entrance. I do want to point out, to park for the tube runs, you will want to drive into the south entrance of the park. To get to the north entrance, you'll have to leave the park, and it's about a 5-minute drive to the north entrance. I was recently there after it rained and caught the spring all to myself. Well, as long as this little guy doesn't count. Families with children keep the springhead much busier in the summer months. Itchituckney Spring is relatively shallow, and the boardwalk makes it pretty easy to keep an eye on the kiddos. During the busy season, you can expect to see a food truck parked at the spring. The north entrance is also home to Blue Spring, which is a short walk from the head spring, and there's a kayak launch. Order ahead, get your kayaks brought here for you. Put them in right here. Okay, some pro tips for Itchituckney that I haven't mentioned yet. Plan ahead and reserve your tubes and adventures online. That's huge. It guarantees entry to the park even if the park is at capacity. You can also reserve your launch time, which means you can schedule a time later in the day and perhaps even sleep in. Reserving your tickets online will also secure a parking space for you. Keep in mind though, online reservations are not always available during peak season or holidays. A couple more quick notes for you. No alcohol is allowed in the park or on the water. Pets are allowed in the park but not on or near the water. And there's a general store for souvenirs and a grill with actual food. That's right, guys. Burgers, wraps, and more. Enjoy. Okay, here it is. My top choice for the most family-friendly spring in Florida is Rock Springs at Kelly Park. You guys, I mean, wow. Rock Springs is one of the prettiest springs I've ever seen. It's managed by Orange County, so they do things a little differently. First, it's pretty cheap. It only costs between $3 to $5 for each car, depending on how many people you came with. But you better be in line early, like really early. I'd say by 7 or 8 a.m. at the latest, or chances are the park will be at capacity and you won't get in. And you want to experience this place. The spring head sits at the entrance to a large rock formation. The cave entrances have grates on them, so you can't go inside. That's fine, because the real beauty is the Rock Springs run. I suggest you start by the rock formation. You can tube or snorkel the entire run. It's about 3/4 of a mile, and because you are going with the current, you can complete the run in about 15 to 20 minutes. Most people use a tube or a raft. It gets pretty busy, so it may feel like you're pinballing down the lazy river at times. It doesn't get very deep, so this run is great for kids. Just be mindful of the rocks. Mother Nature can be sharp. The lazy river winds around and opens up into several large pools of shallow water. This is another great place for the kids to play. There's a large lawn and walkway that hugs the side of the pools. You should be able to find a piece of grass to set up shop for the day. Rock Springs also has lifeguards stationed all around the park. I visit a lot of springs and rarely see lifeguards. That, plus the absolute beauty of the park, the shallow water, and the price, are all reasons Rock Springs at Kelly Park ranks #1 on my list of family-friendly springs. Of course, I do have a few pro tips for you here too. You can't say it enough. Arrive early. I'm not kidding. During the summer and especially on the weekends, you will not get in if you're not in line of cars by 7 or 8 a.m. If they do reach capacity early, ask for an afternoon voucher. Not a lot of people know about that. The park allows another 50 cars in starting at 1. Wekiva Springs is close. You can always spend the morning there and then come back to Rock Springs. Bring your own tubes or rent from one of the vendors outside the park. You cannot rent tubes inside the park. Parents, kids probably won't care, but you may want to wear water shoes when you float down the run. Like I said, some of those rocks are sharp. There is a concession stand, but it's cash only, and no pets are allowed at Rock Springs. For all these springs, it's good to check online or call the ranger station before making your drive. I've added some helpful links in the description below. You might ask why I left off Weeki. Family friendly? Absolutely. Hard to get into? You betcha. You gotta be in line at 6 a.m. We'll leave that one for another video. Did I forget another one of your family favorites? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you liked this video and found it helpful, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Remember, experiences make up the art of adventure. Go get it.